All right, good morning. It's about 8:30 in the morning, right before work. I wanted to just record this really quick, give you an update on the game, the Backrooms game. Currently, it's going to be called The Backrooms Forsaken. I'm sharing my script right now. I just wanted to go over script writing. Now, keep in mind, this is only for me. I just wrote it because I'm the only one looking at the script, other than the actors voicing the words, the dialogue. I'm the only one looking at the script, so I'm being a little bit more laxed than I would if I'm giving it to a client or somebody else to work off of. This is the first draft. I just kind of wanted to talk about characters and why I'm going to go through the script with you, and I'm going to talk about like characters and like why I have, the plot points that I do at what specific times and how I came up with the story. Anyway, I'm not sponsored in any way, but I use Celtics, Celtx. It could be Celtics, but I think it's called Celtics. I've actually never had to say it out loud before, so this is the first time. Anyway, it's free. Well, it used to be really free where you could download it and use it as much as you want. Now it's more of like like everything else, it's subscription based. I think they do give you one free project though. That you can do for free without signing up. But I highly recommend it. It's really easy. You can pretty much just, it's very intuitive, user-friendly. I've been using them for, over 10 years, maybe close to 20 years at this point. So I highly recommend it. So please check it out. Okay, so as you can see, this is called The Backrooms Forsaken. You can like add in like who else it's by or whatever. I just put, my name right here. And then you do based off of, and you can also write like copyright and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm the only one like really seeing this or using it. So, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, okay. Yeah, here we go. There's the copyright and contact info, which like I said, nobody else is really using this script. And I think by the time anybody ever uses the scripts, the game's going to be out by then. So, I'm not going to worry about it, but usually I would do that. Essentially, before I even get into the story, I thought the Backrooms was a really cool concept, like being isolated and not knowing where you are and not knowing how to get out. And then also adding that monster in there, that extra element where it's like, yeah, of course, probably an entity probably lives out here, in this space. You don't know what it would kind of look like or anything like that. So I really like how this developed, I think is really cool. How the story kind of developed. As far back as I can tell, it was just like a random post. It wasn't even called The Backrooms. I think it was just some picture that a anonymous user posted on like 4chan or something. It seems like that sparked kind of the mythology of the Backrooms. So I don't think that there actually is an owner behind it, because it just seems like everyone's kind of putting things together and kind of adding on to it. And I don't think that counts as like a copyright of the IP or anything like that. So as far as I know, you should be able to do it because it's more like an urban legend. You could probably do like Bloody Mary, Slender Man, those kind of things, as far as I know. So anyway, I wanted to, for this game, I noticed like all the Backrooms, they start off kind of cool because like there's one where you're skateboarding and you like fall through after doing a trick or something and you're in the Backrooms. And then after that, it just kind of, I think you go through a bunch of things and then you fall out of this, you like go back into the world and you fall out of the sky and die or something. And I think that was a pretty cool intro to the Backrooms. And I think as a game in itself, that was pretty solid. The graphics were great. You got to see, I think, a monster. I think that's like literally perfection as far as like this capturing the concept. From there, I've seen a bunch of other games like a pools game and like a liminal space type games where you're just kind of just going on and on and on forever, which those are cool and all. But so what I wanted to do is make like an actual story behind the Backrooms, where it kind of builds upon the lore just a tiny bit. So essentially the way I do it is I just have a concept and then I try to do bullet points throughout like each thing. Like this should probably happen here, this should probably happen, and this should probably happen. And it's funny because when I start writing at the beginning, it rarely ever ends the way I wanted it to, or I should say, it rarely ever goes exactly the way, because as you're writing, you realize, oh, this could be really cool, or that could be really cool, or that didn't really work out, so I'm going to go this path. This might be a better path. So the way these characters go and they develop, it's actually way different. What I should say, let's talk about the characters. Okay, so I'm around myself all the time. You know, I have full access to myself. There's no budget for this game, so I'm gonna be the main character. As far as the talking goes, I don't know if you'll actually see the main character. As far as I know, you won't. It's first person perspective, so you're just looking there. But I did model myself, or like a version of myself, just to have something there. Also my wife, she lives with me, so it makes sense. I'm going to have her be the companion character that you meet along the way. And she's modeled out. I made her look a little bit different, so every time I put her in a game, she doesn't look exactly the same, you know? But I put her in it because you got to utilize what you have. She's a great voice actor. I think probably one of the better ones I've ever met. So I'm definitely going to utilize her. And then my best friend Kyle, so I'm putting him in there. If I had more characters, I'd probably go from there, ask more friends or family or whatever. But there's only, as far as this game goes, I could really only see two other characters. So yeah, I'm gonna ask them to be in it. I use their faces because it's kind of fun to play around with, you know, digitizing people. So the original idea was to get stuck in the back rooms. You know, you're like a maintenance worker, or actually the original idea was you're a thief, you're breaking into like a place to go rob it or whatever with a friend, and the security comes and they, there's like a skirmish or a scuffle, and you get thrown through a wall, and that puts you into the back rooms. And then you meet the companion character after a while, and it turned out that she was actually going to be behind you being there. Like, she's like a doctor, and she's been monitoring people that come in there, and this time she was there with you, and then through getting to know you, she realizes, oh, this is wrong or whatever. But when I was starting to write, I just didn't really see that going anywhere, and it just didn't really seem right. So I would say a major influence on this game was BioShock. Is it BioShock Infinite, or I'm blanking on the one. It's the one where you have Elizabeth. I think it's BioShock Infinite, or God, why am I blanking on the name of this? Anyway, it's like that second BioShock game that came out. That's like a prequel. I really liked Booker and Elizabeth's like kind of dynamic, where you have somebody there to like kind of go through things with and experience these things with. And other than that twist at the end, I wanted to do this more of like, a relationship building kind of thing, where you're experiencing things together through like, you're bonding through difficulties or whatever, trauma bonding, I guess. So I kept it all kind of the same, where you do have here. I'll actually start with kind of how you can see it. We'll just start with the actual concept, because there's no point talking about what could have been, but just I'm letting you know just so you can see how different it actually ends up being by the end of it. So instead of being a thief or whatever, you're actually a maintenance worker or handyman for an apartment complex. You get a call from your boss, and he's like, hey, you come help this lady. And he's like, oh, it's my day off. And he's like, well, you're kind of slacking on the job here. So he's like, oh yeah, so I was kind of lazy and I didn't want to do an elevator, so I just have the elevator being broken, and I think it kind of added to the story. Although actually later on, now that I wrote the ending, I will have to in fact make the elevator work, because I wanted to show progress, like character growth, at the very end. But anyway, so he's I'm going to just leave this up so you can read it in your own time while I talk. But so eventually he goes and visits this old lady. It's to throw you off because it's just supposed to be like a normal life. I think by showing his personality a little bit and showing, just normal everyday interactions, you're getting to know the character before, and you're starting to attach yourself to them, see through them as a normal person before things go down. So yeah, essentially, where are we now? One more thing. Yeah, so she's asking you for a bunch of other things because it's like, I don't know if you have any neighbors that ask for stuff, but they keep on keeping asking for more and more things than you originally agreed to. I just took that from personal experiences, where you volunteer for something, but then it never ends up being exactly that. And especially older people, I would say, tend to talk a lot. So, I just wanted to kind of include that. And I was actually going to give her more lines, but, there's just really no point, I think. But maybe I might add some more, like some banter while you're trying to work or something. But I'll have to feel it out when we get to the actual production of it. I've made the script. I've made the characters. I'm making the levels right now. I'm at the part where you're going to meet my friend Kyle's character. It's like maybe like the beginning of the third act, maybe, or the end of the second act, maybe. One thing I wanted to say is that I wanted to have, my problem with writing is I don't really have a middle. I have a beginning and I have an end usually. And so my scripts tend to be shorter than I want them to be. So, because I always think that the middle act is very boring in movies and, most movies and most stories, like, it is a growing, and it's needed because you're showing growth of characters. But I always feel like the pacing just kind of slows down in the middle. So when I do it, I try to like extend that beginning as long as possible, keep that momentum, and then transition to the ending and have that end be very, very long. And you could say like, oh, at the beginning of that end and the end of that beginning could kind of sectionalize into a middle, but it just doesn't. If you were to like say, oh, this is the beginning of that middle part, I think you'd have a hard time with my scripts. So anyway, what I have is you're in the back rooms. It's gonna start off just like the other ones where you're just wandering for a long time. And eventually when I think the player would get kind of sick of wandering, you do run into, your character's gonna be named Paul. You're gonna run into Sam, it's, short for Samantha. There's gonna be an interaction with her where she's obviously terrified of you, doesn't know what's going on. You've arrived essentially before her. So you're having to like calm her down, tell her, that there's something out there other than you two. You're trying to calm her down. So eventually you guys kind of wander around, you're trying to explain, trying to get it. Essentially what's going on in your head when you first got there, you get to now re-experience it with a character and talk it out, which is, I think, needed, or it would be interesting to see in a backrooms game, which you haven't really gotten to see, is you're experiencing it with it. Thoughts that you have are reassured by her, and vice versa. So I have a bunch of, in the thing. So like I said, this is only for me. It's not for other people, but I do kind of like to give myself like little things that I know are going to happen. Like, player movement is now mobile. There's a trigger, and this is what happens when there's a trigger. Like, they have these little trigger boxes, where you like walk into something and that'll trigger an event. They're invisible, obviously. But that's kind of how video games work. So I will like make a note, Sam chase trigger 1. If you get to a certain place once you're running, Paul, that'll trigger this line, Paul, hey, come back, we need to get out of this together. Then you'll keep running, and then another invisible box you'll run into, hello, somebody, then you'll hear Sam's voice. So that's so on. Right here, like I said, if you're interacting with the character, but I don't want you running all the way around, but maybe still be able to look around, I'll put like player immobile, things like that. And also I'll even do that same thing for cutscenes. I need to go back through the script and add that more often, because I kind of got into just cranking out scripts, because I just like to crank them out. Like, I like to crank them out, don't stop, just I don't really get writer's block because I already know how I want things to end. I always have like a beginning and an end in mind, so I'm writing towards that end. And by doing that, I think that gives me it makes me write faster. And as you're going along, you make decisions that are different, and the ending might be different, but you know at least kind of what you want. You know the characters involved. You know, maybe a character dies earlier than they're supposed to, or doesn't die at all. But at least you know how to end it. So that, because I noticed like a lot of writers, they have a really cool concept, but they like like Game of Thrones is a good example. Great characters, great everything, but like they just didn't know how to end it correctly. And I don't know if that's the authors didn't know how to end it, or maybe the creators didn't. But I mean the showrunners. But I would think that they had to have some kind of exchange. So maybe the writing just was really bad, so they just didn't get the idea across when it actually happened, or maybe George R.R. Martin, the author, he has an ending in mind, but doesn't really. Maybe when he writes out, he might change his mind and realizes it's better. That's not how the characters would have gone. So I think they probably ran into the same issue. Same with Lost, probably, and other things. One thing I want to say is dialogue. This is a huge help. Is when you're writing dialogue, say it out loud. Like either have a buddy talking with you, or read the script out loud. Like your guess is as good as mine. When you start doing that, you'll realize you can hear back the lines, and you'll be like, oh, that sounds really cheesy, or that doesn't sound right, and then you'll rewrite it. I haven't done that yet for this script, but I kind of do it as I'm writing now. It's just kind of like an automated thing where I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. And then I go to the next thing. But I will go back and do another pass. So these are just more triggers. Also, like I said, spoilers for the entire game. So if you are watching this, I hope you're just watching for the writing part and getting notes from like how to script write. But if you're interested in playing the game and you don't want spoilers, I would turn away immediately. I'm not saying there's this crazy twist or anything like that, but if you want to experience it for yourself, I think it's always fun to not know, to go into it blind. But this is for game devs and script writers. And like I said, I'm being very relaxed. I probably am not even doing the right like transitions and things. But this is just, it's only because it's just for me. Like I'll go through and space it and clean it up, obviously, but I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. Like I'm not saying like, oh, this, you'll pass a block and blah, 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 or the room will look like this. I won't do any descriptions because I already know what it's going to look like. Normally I would go in and say the room looks like this. She turns and looks at that and then says this, but now it's just like trigger. And then she says it. Now, if it's something that I might not remember, I will add it in there. Like a note. Like I just wanted to write the note. This is going to be a note that you find later. I don't want to have to like remember that, so I wrote it down in here. So anyway, we're going through. I'll let you guys kind of. Also, it's kind of funny is when you write like or like jump sounds or rolling sounds. When you're recording it, it's actually kind of funny. It sounds very sexualized and it's odd. But when you play in the game, it makes sense. But we had fun with that last game because we were like doing rolls like huh. But like recording that sounds really funny. But I played a lot of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time right when I was making Lore Curse of the Elemental, and so there's a lot of like extra sounds I probably wouldn't have put in there, but Link making those sounds just like kind of inspired me. Kind of whatever game I'm like playing at the time might give inspiration, but I will say the biggest game inspiration for these horror games is I really like Resident Evil 4, and like obviously the new one, The Village, stuff like that. But the Resident Evil games are like my favorite horror games type things. So whenever I do like bosses and stuff, you'll see like a little bit of inspirations from that, whether it's dialogue or something, camera movements, but mostly like bosses and how they move and things like that. That's another thing too. I'm trying to debate because like this is a backrooms game, so like technically it's a walking simulator. I'm going back and forth on whether or not there's a gun. I don't know if like my like there's a character you meet later who's like part of the government. I don't know if I'll actually have him give you the weapon and then you go and you can actually shoot monsters and stuff. I haven't thought about it yet. I'm leaning towards changing it. Right now it is written in there where you do have a weapon, but I think I'm going to change it and make it so you don't, because it's a lot to program, and also it might not be for everybody this time around. It doesn't really make sense because it's kind of towards the end, but it might, then again, it might add a fun experience to the game. So I'm kind of going back and forth. If you have any comment on that, if you want it to be like a third-person shooter or first-person shooter, only for the end, then that's cool. I guess I could probably like work in ways to practice shooting like for fun earlier on, but yeah, for now it is. But I think I'm actually going to remove that and just have it so you just wander, because it's a backrooms game. So anyway, what I wanted to do is have some moments. I guess you could say the pools area is like kind of towards the middle, because I wanted to have some like kind of relationship building where, you know, you guys realize how dire the situation is, and then you see all these slides and you're having a good time. You get to talk a little bit. I think that's a good spot. Maybe that could be the middle. But essentially, you're going to be on a slide. You go on a small one, you go on a medium one, and then the very big one actually ends up going different directions. Like she goes down one and you go down the other, and then that actually separates you guys. So then you're back on your own again, wandering again, and now you're in the backrooms with like slides and it looks like houses and stuff. Sorry if I'm going too fast. You can slow this down if you need to. For the script, I mean, obviously I'm just rambling at this point, but these are more notes that you'll find. I came up with a lore for the creature, and it's very subtle, but if you get the notes, you can probably put two and two together. Essentially, like the longer you're there, you're breathing in this air, and that atmosphere turns you into the monster. So what I was thinking is you could find these notes that somebody like obviously who's been there before you, and you don't know how much time, you don't know how much longer they've been there before you. But there's a guy named Anthony. You'll see his letters, and he'll have like a cough, and he'll mention it. And then by the end of the game, you start getting a cough, and then he talks about how his legs and arms are kind of going numb, and then like later on, he's like not even making words. He's just like, I'm hungry. And so I was thinking like you kind of put that together and realize that's the monster is Anthony. So I have the monster, like obviously I had that little squiggly weird dimensional monster, but I'm not going to go with that. I'm actually going to go with another one that I kind of found that looks kind of more like humanistic. I mean, it's still like all black. It looks terrifying. It's got like longer limbs and stuff, but I wanted to go with something that's like a little bit more humanistic. To show that it is actually humans that are stuck there. And then maybe like the longer you're there, the less human like you'll be. But I think that's kind of creepy, you know, like to have something that's like similar to you but not. But that's just me, and that's just obviously a subjective thing. Some people probably like the squiggly monster, which I do too. I think that's cool, but I'm going with something different this time around. So yeah, then you have a guy. This is my friend Kyle. He's going to be playing a character named Hatton. I actually don't even know if you actually even know if you find out his name or not. But just with him, honestly, he's more of like an explainer character. This is probably the middle of the game, towards the end of the middle, where you know he kind of explains like what he knows. It's like the government knows of the back rooms, and you kind of go with him to scavenge for food and stuff. And he finds Sam, and he's going to take you back to her. When you come back to her, when you come back to where she is, you find out that she's gone. She has disappeared, And I think I'll probably put like either scratches in the carpet or a piece of material from her jacket or something like that on the ground. But essentially, she got taken by the monster. So the guy, this is where the part where I'm like debating whether he gives you the gun or not, because he could be like cowardly and be like, you're on your own, or whatever. Or he could be like, yeah, here, take this or something. So right now he's like, yeah, here, take this. But I think I'm actually going to have him be the opposite. Sorry, I got a little thing on my phone. So anyway, yeah, it's talking about almond milk, and this is just where they're kind of giving you stuff. This is where you're just finding things and stuff like that. So, and he's telling you that she's probably gone, and then Paul's like, I got to go save her. Paul goes. So, like I said, it could be fun to shoot a couple bad guys or whatever and go save Sam. It could, or it could just be fun just to go in a creepy area and go save Sam in that sense. Essentially, the creatures there has your, like, she's been put against the wall, like, using these, like, weird vine tentacle vein type things, and you'll free her from that, and you go back to find that, yeah, this is, like, the dialogue of you saving her kind of thing. So anyway, you come back and you find out that the monster killed Kyle's character, Hatton. So he's dead. And so at this point, you can pick up the gun, I think, but you're not using it because it's only for a cutscene. If he chooses not to give you his gun, you have it for the ending cutscene. That's the only reason I involved the gun at all. Is there's a rule in writing: if you have a gun in a room, it has to go off by the end of the scene or the end of the movie. So that's I wanted to have something where you could essentially have a hero moment. And so that's the only reason why you even have that prop in the first place. So it's not to be a first person shooter. It's for that ending scene when you're running and you have to save Sam, and you're kind of like self-sacrificing yourself. That's the whole reason I have that. So I try to make it so that there's no wasted dialogue. Every dialogue is to serve the story or the characters. So like even if it's just saying, oh, this is creepy or something like that, that's still character building, because you're recognizing that this is a creepy thing, or she is, and you build character off of that. But I won't mention like okay, there's a part where they're like talking about where she's from, and the whole reason I even mentioned that is because that comes in the point later, because essentially we'll get to it, but you guys get separated at the very, very end. Like, you're running down this hall and you find this like pickup point where Hatton was supposed to meet his, or thinks that his crew will be, or rendezvous point or something like that. You'll be running towards it, and sorry, I'm just like trying to get through the story at the same time. You'll be running through it, and you like right as the monster's chasing you, you turn to shoot it, and Sam kind of gets away, enough where she's at the doorway with the government people, and here's the monster, and you're in the middle, and you shoot the monster, and you turn to run, and then you fall through the floor right as you're about to grab Sam's hand. Then you fall through the floor, and you're in a you wind up in a field. This is my wife's idea, is you're in a field, and you're just back in wherever, back in the real world, and you just don't know if she's alive or not. I kind of like that, because it's like, so she mentions where she's from, because then in the narration at the end, I can go, I've been looking for her for days, for weeks. I even went to, where she lived, hoping I'd pass her in a cafe. Actually, I'll get to that. Let's see. Sure, it's like air here, strange. This is when they're talking about the air, and they're starting to have issues. And she's suffering a little bit more because she got taken by the monster, and she was like in that darker space, so she's changing a little bit faster. I don't have you guys actually changing, because there's just no point in doing all of that extra stuff for no reason, because I'm not going to have her change and be evil or anything like that in this story, so I'm not going to bother with that. Now, there could be a DLC where you play as her part after the end of this game, and maybe we can go into that, but yeah, wow, I need to catch up on the script. Yeah, let's see. We're not gonna make it, Sam. Yeah, I try to walk, put her down, cough right behind you. Right. This is where they kind of already have a relationship kind of built. They like set like a little like haha date, moment. But you obviously can tell that both characters kind of like each other now, and like I said, it's trauma bonding. I've gone through the steps where I hope that by the end of it, you'll feel somewhat of a connection to the companion character. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so this is where you fell through the floor. You're in a field. You are trying to find her. You go up to a car on the road, and you can see how I said end cutscene, enter cutscene. And this is what I was talking about. Is like I mentioned that she's from Manhattan. So it's been several months since I saw her. I looked through every social media profile with the name Sam who lived in Manhattan. So he's trying to find her. That's why I mentioned it. Or else I wouldn't mention it. I wouldn't say like, oh, I have a dog, I have a cat. It wouldn't make sense. So I mentioned where she lives specifically because of this, so I could do this dialogue at the end. So it's like you're setting up and you're paying off. Set up, pay off, set up, pay off. Everything, I think. I'm getting tired of talking. I've had to do a lot of talking the last, last couple of months. Okay, see, I went there down the streets hoping to run into her. Did she make it? Is she alive? The fact that I don't know and can't tell anyone is maddening. That's the thing is it's only been him and her experiencing this. You can't talk about the government. You can't talk about the backrooms. No one's going to believe him. They even mentioned that earlier. Saying like, oh, do you think anybody's gonna believe us? And she goes, well, I think if both of us have the same story, then that's more credible than just one of us being crazy. Now I think this part here, this Paul's apartment, this is either going to be if you find all the notes, or it'll just be actually in the game. If you find all the notes, it'll be bonus, or it'll just automatically be part of the game. I haven't decided yet, but I was thinking about like this is where I was talking about the elevator being broken at the very beginning. Is you start off, you have your grocery bag, you walk into the elevator that actually is working. So it's like showing the future. You finally got around to fixing it. You get in the elevator, you go up to your floor, and you're gonna notice there's gonna be a trigger box, and you'll notice that your apartment doors cracked open just slightly. And so then this will enter the cutscene where your hand will open the door, and it'll like kind of reveal like a little bit of a shoulder of a woman, or just a shoulder, but it'll look like Sam's jacket. I would probably use the Sam character, but just enough where you can see a shoulder, and then it's going to cut to black and then do the credits. So you can kind of get a glimpse, like maybe it was her, maybe not. I got that idea kind of from Inception a little bit with the top about to fall over. So I think that would be a good ending, because you're like, it talks about you looked for. It's been a lot of time passing. All of a sudden, your door's open, and maybe not. It's her. It's kind of an open-ended in the sense of like, it could have been a happy ending, and you don't know what she's gonna say. Like this could leave it open to keep the story going, because maybe she's changed completely into a monster. Maybe she's there, and you guys can finally go on your date. You guys talked about. She's probably been through a lot. Why has she been gone for so long? So it opens a lot of questions. It's kind of a cliffhanger, but also it's like a cliffhanger, but also satisfying in the same way, open to interpretation. I kind of like that for this ending. So I think I might actually keep it as the actual ending, but it also would be nice to have things you have to collect or whatever, and you only get that as like a bonus scene. So I don't know. I'm going back and forth on that as well. I'm leaning towards just keeping it in there and not really doing extra scenes and extra bonuses, but hey, if you like that kind of thing, you want to replay this game a couple times to get all the notes, then maybe. So anyway, I'm sure there's like so much more I could talk about as far as script writing and stuff, but hopefully this kind of stuff helped in some way, like me talking about like the dialogue and how the characters go. But I think the thing is you want to keep pacing good. Once you feel like the player might start getting bored, have scenery change, or have a cutscene or a dialogue or something like that, or just one thing. Like there's a part where you're just going through these yellow rooms forever, and I was like, well, I don't want to introduce Sam yet. I don't want to introduce the creature yet, but I need to do something because I feel like you'd be bored after a few minutes. So I have like this random fish in the hallway. It's like, why is there a fish here? You know, I think it helps because it's like something different, and you're realizing, oh, other things can probably appear here too. Why would it wouldn't make sense for it just to be me? So, so things like that. Pacing, characters, you know, you want to have relationships built in some way. It doesn't have to be romantic, but just, I think having characters with, you know, with relationships in some way, friendship or whatever, even if it's an enemy that you just really want to be after, or is after you, that's a relationship in some way, and it gives stakes to the story, and it makes a more compelling story. So, you know, try to keep your characters interesting. As far as dialogue, keep it on point. Like I said, you're setting up and you're paying off. You're setting up and you're paying off. So try to have everything, like any kind of scenes, any kind of dialogue. You always want to like have that come back in some way, shape, or form. Why introduce something if you're not gonna, like, it would be pointless to introduce it and then never show it again. So, I mean, I could probably even work in the fish thing where he could be like, oh, I really want sushi. And then that could be sushi. I could change it from pizza to sushi. Or maybe he's like, I don't want sushi anymore. I could have like a dialogue of that, like, after that fish. So anyway, that's everything. I'm Fred Grant. Like I said, the name of the game is going to be called The Backrooms Forsaken. I hope this helped a little bit get some of the process of the script part. And then next I'll take you back through the game itself with the levels and go from there. But have a good one. Sorry, it's a longer video than normal. Bye.